Welcome to Not Starving Artists, the podcast. I'm your host, Brooke Benson, money coach and equity actor. I am your financial cheerleader, here to help you build your financial confidence and have power over your money. The best part, no budgeting or bi-weekly paychecks required. I went from being a broke BFA grad having weekly panic attacks about money to a financially confident, wealth-building actor and business owner. Money gets to feel fun, simple, and sexy, and I am going to show you how. Hello, everyone. Welcome back to the podcast. We are talking about the skill of spending today. I want to talk about intuitive spending, which is what I teach all my clients to do. And we're going to talk about a lot of different facets of spending today, because one of the big things that I see in the finance industry at large is that spending is seen as this necessary evil. Like it's a thing you have to do, but if we could all just not spend and only save and invest, life would be better and your money goals would get hit so much easier. But that's not how spending works. That's not how money works. But it's this thing that we keep trying to cut back, and we feel guilty for when we spend on things that aren't necessarily necessities or must-haves, or we have to go through all these hurdles and hoops of trying to justify why we want to buy something, or why we want to spend a certain amount on rent, or why we want to take this vacation, or why we want to buy this piece of art. And it's exhausting. It's exhausting. And it creates a really fucked up relationship with you and your money when there are these weird energies around spending, where spending always feels like the least fun money skill to try and hone. Spending feels like a fun money skill when you're not actually flexing it as a skill, when you've gone into impulse spending, when you've gone into a fuck it blackout, right? Because no decisions need to be made and we are just avoidant, head in the sand, we are having a great time, right? But when you actually hone the skill of spending and learn how to get really good at the skill of spending, spending feels just as delicious and expansive as when you are saving money, as when you are investing money, as when you are doing anything else with your money that feels inherently good for your future self and inherently responsible and inherently adult. What I want to do for you here in this episode is show you how the skill of spending gets to feel just as adult and responsible as all the other money skills. And when you do that, then saving and investing actually gets really easy. Putting money towards your future self actually gets really easy when you learn how to have a really healthy relationship with spending. That isn't just about how little can I spend, or having to I'm going to spend what I want, so I have to figure out how to justify all of it, right? Let's get rid of all of that. And the other thing I want to say as we dive in here is to remind you that spending, everything we do with money, it all goes back to spending. We save money to spend it in the future. We invest money to spend it in the future. Even if you are not the one who is spending the money, if you want to invest money for generational wealth, for your kin, for someone else's kin, for someone else's organization or cause, that money will then be spent. I think it's really interesting how deep the spending wound goes, especially for creatives and artists, because whenever I say the end goal of everything we do is to spend it, there's always wait, no, that's bad. That's irresponsible. That's an innate reaction that people have without actually sitting with what that statement actually means. Because that's a very true statement. We don't save money forever and ever, amen. Saving is the vehicle to spending it as future you. Investing is the vehicle to spending as your 60 plus old retired self, right? That's what it is. But I was writing an article for a artistic publication a while back, and I had sent in my article and they sent back notes. And in this article, I was talking about the skill of spending and how to release guilt when you spend. And I said the end goal of everything we do is to spend it. So we have to learn how to have a really healthy relationship with spending. And one of the notes that was given from someone on this team was, says who? Well, me because you asked me to write the article. But then it was like, we also want to highlight the importance of saving and investing. And there are people who would disagree with this because of, and they like listed responsible adult terms and whatever. And it's so interesting that even in the article, me explaining what I mean by that statement and how spending is tied back to everything, there's this innate reaction of like, don't tell people to spend. How dare you? That's so irresponsible. Or like, no, we need to be holding on to our money. We need to be hoarding our money as artists because we never know what's going to happen, because we're in a scary time right now. We gotta white knuckle. We gotta buckle down. Don't you dare enjoy your spending because we have to do the saver things. So I noticed this reaction with, I think, just humans in general around money and spending, but specifically as artists and creatives, because we have this entrenched thought, and business owners too. If you have any kind of fluctuating income, like if you are not functioning on a bi-weekly paycheck in a fairly consistent industry, which what does that even mean anymore? Like what is a safe industry anymore? But if you don't have a bi-weekly paycheck, there is this inherent thought and energy of like, I gotta hold it because who knows what's gonna happen, right? And do you see how even as I say that, like there's a breath holding that's happening. There is a clenching, right? And that is also at war with creativity. That's at war with you actually enjoying your life. And so what we're talking about today is how do you enjoy spending money without being so fucking scared of spending money? And I think this is interesting too when it comes to and I don't use the word addiction lightly, but when you have impulses and compulsions about spending, or even I'm gonna use other examples here that are not related to money because the energy behind it is similar. But if you have a relationship with food that has been warped by society, by how you've grown up, by the media, especially as women, right? Like we all have some element of that. But if you have a relationship with food where binging is part of your experience, what's interesting about food and money specifically is that you can't just cut them out of your life, right? And I will say alcohol is very entrenched in our society, so it is very difficult if you want to be sober to, like, that affects so many other areas than just what you put inside of your mouth, right? It's entrenched in our social gatherings, it's entrenched in career, it's entrenched in, I will say even, let's just go here for a second, artists, right? Artists, there tends to be a lot of gathering around alcohol, around getting drunk, around substances, and that's where creativity is flourishing. And if you remove yourself from that, it kind of pulls you out of being able to be a part of that creative process sometimes within specific circles. So all of that to say, you can completely omit something like alcohol if it is actively not impacting your life in a good way. You can't do that with money and spending. You can't do that with food. So I want to name that if you have been trying really hard to get a handle on your spending, or if you feel like you always go overboard, or if you feel like you don't trust yourself with spending money, and you've been trying really hard, especially if you have credit card debt too, maybe you've paid off credit card debt, but now you have credit card debt again. I want you to have some compassion for yourself that sometimes abstaining is easier than having to manage it day by day by day, decision by decision by decision, because you can't just cut it all out of your life. You have to be actively molding a new relationship with it while you're releasing the old relationship with it, while you're having to still manage it and use it and spend it. And so naming that as well, which is why honing the skill of spending is so fucking important when you are navigating your financial wellness, your financial life. This is the most important money skill, because saving is easy. Investing is easy. The thing that makes saving and investing hard is a fucked up relationship with spending. You don't learn the skill of spending through a spreadsheet. You don't learn it through a budgeting app. You can't use a pretty pie chart that looks real nice and it's like, oh, I'll spend this percent on this and this percent on this and this percent on this, and then I'll be financially secure. a budgeting app that is telling you how much you're allowed to spend based on what's coming in or whatever. All of those things are outsourcing your financial autonomy. It is taking away your decision-making power. And no wonder you don't feel confident with your money. No wonder you don't feel safe with your money. No wonder you don't trust yourself with spending, because when your budgeting app isn't syncing up to your watch or whatever, if you haven't looked at your spreadsheet in a minute or whatever it is, or even like you're expecting your financial advisor to tell you how you should be spending your money, if something like goes wrong with that connection, all of a sudden you feel out of sorts. There was a budgeting app that went under a few years back. I can't remember which one it was, but there were a lot of people that were like, oh my God, what am I going to do? Because they didn't learn how to manage their money without an app. They didn't learn to become app agnostic, bank agnostic, company agnostic with their money. As much as I talk about how much I love Ally Bank, they're the ones I personally use. A lot of my clients use them. They're purple and pink. They've got great, pretty colors. They have a really great savings bucket feature. I just love them. But at the end of the day, if they went under or their leadership started doing some shady shit, or if I needed something different from a bank that Ally wasn't able to give me, I can move my money flow to a totally different bank. I could move it to a credit union if I wanted to. What I teach inside of the money flow method, it's not dependent on any one specific company. I think that robs us of our financial autonomy. I also think in this day and age, we got to be able to be flexible, because we never know who at the top is investing in who, right? Like, there are companies that we no longer want to put our dollars towards, and sometimes you don't know that until down the road of what you're a part of. So we got to remain flexible, baby, right? And so when it comes to how you spend your money, I want all of your spending decisions to come from the dollars that you see inside of your bank accounts, no matter where your bank accounts are. I'm not talking about an app or a spreadsheet. I'm talking about dollars in bank account. And your heart, your gut, your knower, your intuition, whatever your bodily mechanism is that helps you make decisions. It's going to be a little bit different for all of us. Mine is very distinctly in my gut. Deep in my gut, I feel a fuck yes or a fuck no. I feel good about something or I don't feel good about something. That's my barometer. And every single one of you has one of those inside of you. And a lot of times your anxiety about money clouds you being able to hear that internal knower. And when your money is messy inside of your bank accounts, when you only have one checking account that all of your money is coming into while you're spending, and your rent is getting paid out of that account, and you're also have spending on a credit card, and like you're just kind of sort of trying to keep it at the number that you feel safe around, whether it's $1,000 or $200 or $10,000, as long as it's within that range, you feel safe. Like, when you don't have clarity on what the fuck is actually happening with your numbers month to month, and you're just trying to make sure that it never dips below, you're not able to make clear decisions, right? So when it comes to the skill of spending, there's two things that you need to learn and get good at. And one is financial organization. This is the money flow method. This is the 4-step anti-budget money strategy that I teach inside of my online course, Cashed Up Creatives, and also what I teach my one-on-one clients. This is the cash flow system that separates your money so that you can spend freely throughout the month without going into the negatives, without affecting what your auto pays are doing. Like, you know, your bills are already paid for the month up front. You've sectioned off the money that you want to spend for the rest of the month, not into categories, just one big chunk. And then the rest is in your savings, split up into certain buckets. You have a very clear visual of how much you're making every month, month to month to month, especially if it fluctuates, right? There's a whole system behind it. And it's easy. It's simple to manage. You just have to set it up so you can see the full picture of your money, past, present, and future, instead of all of it inside of one account. And you're just like trying to hold it at this one specific amount. And if it dips below, you get really anxious. And if it goes higher, you feel like you're flying high and you can spend whatever you want, right? That's not a way to manage your money. You need actual clarity of the full picture. Okay, so that's the first thing. Then you might have feelings about what that math is doing, but now you can focus everything into your gut intuition, your feeler, your knower, to help you decide, like, do I actually want to spend money on this? How are these numbers making me feel? When you have clarity in the bank accounts, it makes it easier for you to hear what's happening inside. And there's no person or template or financial educator that could tell you exactly what would be the responsible or good thing to spend or not spend money on. I was talking to one of my clients recently, and they were doing some reevaluating of business expenses. And there were some business expenses that she was feeling like she wanted to remove. And then there was a business expense that she wanted to add in. And she was feeling feelings about removing some of those business expenses of like, I don't want to be in scarcity. But then there was this new one she wanted to bring in, and that was feeling really abundant. And it's like, what's happening right now is you are assessing inside of your gut that these no longer feel good and this one feels really good. And face value, it might not really make sense why this one feels good and why these no longer feel good, but I couldn't have told her that. I couldn't have said, yes, remove this and add this in. We had to work through, and I was asking her questions about what are the values, what are you thinking, what are you afraid would happen if you remove this, what are you afraid would happen if you add this in, what's the core fear, and the core fear is like, what if I don't make money again? So then we work through that fear. But that's the process. Like, you can't outsource those kinds of decisions to anyone. And this is where financial autonomy and your ability to know what decisions feel good to you alongside the clarity of numbers and the math and what the bank accounts are saying is important, especially when you're working with other financial professionals. When you're working with a CPA, if and when you decide to work with a financial advisor, most of you will not need to work with a financial advisor. DIY investing is very simple. I teach you how to do it inside of Cashed Up Creatives. I don't have a financial advisor. Almost all of my clients don't have financial advisors. You don't need them most of the time. But when you are working with other financial professionals, it is important for you to be able to have the confidence to disagree with them and make a different decision. Like, I had a client who they had a CFO, and their CFO was telling them, don't spend on X, Y, and Z inside of your business. We need your profit to do this so that we can do whatever in the future. Like, he had his visions about what he wanted for her business and their taxes in the future. And my client was like, no, I'm actually going to spend this. And I'm going to invest in this big thing and kind of do an overhaul. And it's not going to make sense to you because seeing my profit and taxes do what they're going to do this year scares you. But I have the vision, and I'm holding the reins, and only I can see in my imagination where we're headed. And I know exactly what is going to happen to my profit. I know exactly what is going to happen to my taxes. So I'm making this decision in full awareness and full understanding and full clarity. But now I get to go with my gut. So do you see how the skill of spending, intuitive spending is what I call it. Intuitive spending can only come from you having full clarity of what's happening in your numbers. Full clarity of what the consequences, good or bad, or I don't even like that binary. The consequences, what they may be, the cause and effect of what will happen. You have full understanding of what those things would be. And then you can back your decision with your full chest. So what intuitive spending looks like is, okay, I'm looking at my bank accounts and I'm 1 month ahead on bills, and I really want to get 3 months ahead on bills. But I just got off the wait list for an acting class that I've been really wanting to take. And something in me is telling me that it is so important that I go and take this class right now, meaning my timeline to get 3 months ahead on bills is going to take a little bit longer. But I am 1 month ahead on bills. And I actually know that I have money to support myself coming in for the next 2 months. So I do have some time to give myself to build up that buffer. So I'm going to say yes to this acting class. Then you have another version where I have plenty of money in the bank account to go on this retreat that a lot of my friends and peers are going to, and it's just kind of a no-brainer that we would go to this retreat together. But there is something in me that just doesn't feel like it's right for me to go, and I'm not excited about it. So even though I have plenty of money and I actually set aside the money to go on this thing, I'm no longer feeling like it's a yes. So I'm going to say no. Another version of this could look like, I was just invited on a trip to Paris with a friend of mine, and all I would have to do is pay for my flights because our lodging is going to be paid for, and they've got tickets to see some shows out there because they're being sent over by their work, so we're going to get to stay in the housing that's already paid for with them, and I really want to go to Paris, but fuck, I don't really know what my income is going to do over the next couple of months, and I don't have the money in my savings account right now. But I do have a credit card that is currently at a 0% interest rate for the next 12 months. And I know that I can put these flights that are going to cost $1,000 on that card. And if I think about the next 12 months, if I make it a goal for myself to be able to pay that off over the next 12 months, I can feel really good saying yes to this because I won't be accruing interest. And I know that no matter what, I'm going to have to figure out what I'm going to do income-wise when I get back from Paris after these 2 months. But I'm going to say yes because I feel really excited about it. But do you see how every single one of these examples is acknowledging the reality of the dollars and what's in the bank account? But the driver, the person making the decision, is your gut, your feelings, and your intuition. That's the most important part about the skill of spending. It's not about just listening to your feelings. It's about letting your feelings happen while you are looking at the numbers. So you're taking in the data of the math, and you're taking in the data of your feelings, and you're letting them talk to each other. And you're not making it mean anything about saying yes or no to whatever's on the table. Because we've talked about this in multiple previous podcast episodes. But when you are saying no to something, you're automatically saying yes to something else. When you are saying yes to something, you are automatically saying no to something else. So saying no to the retreat is saying yes to keeping the money in your bank account. Saying yes to the flights that you're going to put on a credit card means saying no to extra financial wiggle room over the next 12 months. Now, there is no moral weight to any of those. And I think this is what the finance industry, society, your parents get wrong about money, is that there's no blanket responsible and irresponsible way to use your money. Like, I think about, there are so many people, creatives, artists, business owners, etc., who at the beginning of their journey, the people around them were scared shitless for. Right? Where they were investing in their career, they didn't have stable income, they put so much money on a credit card, they made decisions that didn't make sense to anyone else outside of them, or they were piling money away when so many people were like, why aren't you using it for this? And why aren't you putting it towards this? Your life could be so much easier if you just did this. You could make moves this way. But they had very distinct purposes or a feeling for why they wanted to save it for the future thing that they ended up using it for that felt really important for them. But nobody else would have been able to get inside of their brain to understand why they were making those decisions. The finance industry, your parents, the people around you, and society think they know what's best for you. And that is absolutely not true. You are the only fucking person who knows at the end of the day what is best for you. Okay? That is blanket true statement. Now, the thing you might need to cultivate and learn the skill of is how to actually discern how you hear that voice, that intuition, that gut feeling, that truth inside of you. How you discern that from your anxiety, from wanting to numb out, from a thought that you don't know what's best for you, from feeling like you are making a choice that is in your best interest, but really it's the feeling of this is what I've always done, so I'm gonna continue to do it this way. There's so many things that might be getting in the way of you being able to hear that voice and be able to trust your intuitive spending muscle, if we're talking specifically about spending. And a lot of that can be cleared up with organizing your money and having a clear picture, and also the foundations of financial education, understanding how money works. That's going to clear up a lot of that fog. I had a client once where that was one of our big pieces of work together, was creating so much clarity in her money so that she could hear her gut again. She was also very much like, she would get very strong gut feelings about things, but over the course of her work life and getting promoted and making more money and now feeling unhappy in her career path, she had lost that connection. So a lot of our work was actually not the clarity piece. We got the clarity piece quite quickly. The money flow method is very simple to set up. And once you put the numbers in the bank accounts, once you see the numbers and do the quick, simple math, like there's nothing more to do. It's the thoughts about the math and the numbers, what the math and the numbers might make you feel. And then that anxiety about like, oh no, what if? SOS, what if? That might be what clouds your intuition. The thoughts of, oh, but if I let go of this really great paycheck, what's going to happen? And then sometimes that fear will bump you back into like clouding the gut intuition of like, nope, I'm not going to listen to her because I'm going to do the responsible thing. So the hard part about the skill of spending is the fact that you have to be lucid in every moment, that you have to stay aware. You have to make a conscious decision every single time you use your dollars. Now, this turns into a really freeing feeling once you've been doing it for a while, because that feeling, instead of feeling like a weight of, oh God, I have to make a decision every single time. I have to be like consciously aware and thinking about how I'm feeling every single time I want to make a decision. Like, fuck, I just want to black out. I just want to not think about money. Like, it goes from that feeling to, I have full control. I have full autonomy. I get to say yes and no at any minute. No one can tell me what to do with my money. I get to decide if I'm spending on this thing in this store right now. I get to decide if I'm investing in this or not. I can decide to save, keep saving what's in my savings account. I can decide to spend what's in my savings account. Like, there comes a confidence and a control and the feeling of autonomy, and fuck, that feels so good. But that comes from the work of, at the beginning, every single time you are making a spending decision, a decision around anything about moving your dollars, using your dollars, circulating your dollars, saying, does this feel good? If this doesn't feel good, why doesn't it feel good? What are the thoughts that are going on in my head? Is this an impulse? Is this something I'm doing out of people pleasing? Is this something I'm doing because I'm scared of feeling scarcity, so I'm going to spend my money in order to force myself to feel abundant? Am I choosing not to spend because I'm really terrified the inconsistency of my income? And if that's the case, how will I ever get rid of that feeling if my plan for the rest of my life is to be a self-employed creative and my whole life is going to be inconsistent income? Okay, so what do I need to solve that feeling? Like, you're going to follow trails, and I promise you this will get easier. I promise you it will get easier, and I promise you that it will feel so fucking good once you like get over the hump of having to acknowledge that every time you make a decision, there's thoughts that are going to come up. And then we can set those aside and spend time in your journal or inside of your one-on-one weekly coaching calls with me if you're in money mentorship. We can set those aside to really disseminate. But then every time you make a spending decision, it gets to start feeling fun of like, I've got control here. I can say yes or no, and it doesn't matter. Because there's no right or wrong answer. That's what I want you to hear today, is that there's no right or wrong way to spend your money. The only way you could spend your money wrong or irresponsibly is when you're not tuned into what you actually want. Is if you're making a decision based off of trying to numb something making decisions based off of other people or their projections onto you, making decisions out of fear or thoughts that aren't aligned with the person that you actually are, or that you actually desire to be. So here's your homework for this week. For the next 7 days, or if that feels too overwhelming, just do it on one day where you know you're kind of going to be out and about and money might be leaving your credit card or coming onto your credit card. Do this for 7 days. If that feels too overwhelming, one day. What you're going to do is every single time you are circulating money, right? Money is leaving your bank account, or you're tapping your credit card, or you're putting it somewhere else. I want you to write that down in your notes app or in your journal, and you're going to keep a running list. And you're going to write the thing that you put money towards. You're going to write the dollar amount, and then you're going to write, I made this spending decision because, and fill in the blank. It might be one sentence. You might end up filling up a whole page. I want you to play with what this exercise brings up in you. The goal of it is to touch you into your feelings or what was actually happening when you made that decision. You might realize you're actually a lot more in tune with your gut feelings, your intuitive spending muscle than you thought. You might find that you're much more disconnected. You might find that there's a common thread or thought that comes up every single time you make a decision. There's so much that could come up here. Play with this for the next 7 days and see what happens. I also want to note here, this is why I don't teach budgeting. This is why I am an anti-budget money coach, because this work, pure just awareness of how you feel when you circulate your dollars, will do the work that you want budgeting to do for you. You do not need a budget. All you need is awareness. But budgeting feels easier because you don't have to do the feelings work. You can outsource your feelings and you can outsource your decision making around your spending to a budget, right? What someone says is the correct percentage or category or whatever it is to spend your money on. This is why I don't teach budgeting, because this is way more effective and sustainable long term and can follow you for the rest of your lifetime, whatever season of life you're in, whatever income you have, whatever cost of living you have. If you decide to have kids or a dog, or you become nomadic, like, it doesn't matter. This work, the intuitive spending muscle, will never leave you. It's not dependent on anything else, just you, your gut intuition, and the money flow method, baby. And if you want support developing the skill of spending, developing the intuitive spending muscle, you can book a sales call with me to learn more about one-on-one coaching with me. I hope you have a fantastic rest of your week and enjoy this exercise. I can't wait to hear how it goes for you. Thanks so much for tuning in. Come join me on Instagram for more on how to build a simple, sexy relationship with your money. My Instagram handle is @NotStarvingArtists. And if you want to dive deeper with me, head to the show notes to learn more about one-on-one coaching. If you love this episode, subscribe, leave a review, and share it with a friend that you want to get rich with.